everybody, Prepper003 here today with another video for you on group threats for SHTF. And this one is going to be family and friends. Now right now I know it's a very controversial topic when it comes to family and friends in a preparedness plan and in a preparedness situation when it comes to like an SHTF scenario. Because you often hear whenever you try to bring up preparedness to people or family members that if something happens, I'm just going to come to your house. And then you also hear people that are actually in your family, like close family, like wife, kids and stuff like that, that don't really understand or really take into the full aspect of your preparedness plan and might not think of it as being too serious and can actually kind of be of a loose lips sink ships kind of thing. So today we're going to be talking about that as the main topic. So starting off, I'm just going to hit on the topic that in your family and friends, these people are very close to you. They kind of know what, depending on how open you are about your stuff, they kind of have a general idea that you are preparing or that you are a little bit more prepared than the average person. Even if you're not telling them, a lot of people can pick up, oh, he has a multi-tool on him all the time. He maybe has a bag that has a whole bunch of stuff in his vehicle. Just small things like that kind of come off as being a little bit more prepared than the average citizen when it comes to for overall preparedness. So with that is they can kind of get the idea that maybe, yes, he is a prepper, or maybe if you are open and talking to them, they realize, yeah, you're a prepper, and if something does happen, you might know what to do, or you might have supplies for them or their family, if they're your friends. So what that does is that entails them to being able to know your situation, be able to, in type of an SHTF scenario, come to you for aid. And you might not always have the aid that they need or not all have the supplies that they would need. Because you have to remember, you're trying to prepare and save your family as well as trying to make sure that they don't have to deal with lack of food, lack of water, lack of supplies once an SHTF scenario happens. So it's kind of like survival of the fittest in that situation where you can't just give everybody else your supplies because you actually need it in that scenario. You can't just go out and buy more supplies at the store depending on the type of situation, especially if it's something that's long term. So that leads into knowing your plan. And this is going to go into the kind of factor when it comes to actually your very close family, like your wife, your son, your daughter, maybe your parents, kind of the very close-knit type of your family. So people that are actually wanting to protect in the SHTF scenario. So what happens is that they might not always be really onto the idea of prepping. They might not always support it or want to really work with you on helping you prep. So what happens with that is that it really drags on you, and it also opens up a security threat as well, which is going to lead into pretty much a subcategory of OPSEC, or operational security, if you will, to the point where they might not be all too serious about it. And sure, you've told them that, well, we're putting this food away in case something happens. Maybe we need a couple of days worth of supply of food or something like that. Or we're putting this water away because of a disaster. I have these firearms in case something happens and we need to defend ourselves. Well, what can happen is they can tell other people, and then those people can tell other people, and then what happens is that your whole plan, and on top of not just your plan, but your overall security after an SHTF scenario, it gets broken down, because now other people know that you're preparing, and also other people know that you have certain type of things, depending on how much stuff is stolen. And it comes down to, I'm just going to use this as an example. In the movie Blackout America that's on YouTube, the prepper that was in that video brought along his daughter's boyfriend. And what happened with that is that whenever he brought in that pretty much odd factor into his group, he had a whole bunch of different variables into it, which ended up working out very badly for him. Not trying to spoil the movie or anything, but it ended up just completely exposing his bug location, and it also completely broke down his security plan. So that can happen very well whenever you have family. You have people that are very close to your family members as well. So they can pretty much break rank from your operational security plan or even your burial plan itself by maybe telling somebody that they love or that they care about that, oh yeah, if something happens, meet me up here. That's where we're planning to go in case an SHTF scenario happens or something like that. And then you have pretty much a whole slew of different things going on that you didn't want to prepare for, or if you did prepare for, now you're having to deal with that thing much more sooner than you would thought of afterwards. Now, the last point about family and friends being a big SHTF scenario threat is going to be, in my opinion, after the SHTF scenario happens, because we don't know exactly, when it comes to our close relatives, we might not always know every single thing about them. For example, if they're on antipsychotic medications, we might not know because they're trying to keep it quiet because they don't want to be thought of as that. They might need certain type of medications. They might need certain types of things to keep themselves kind of clear-headed, if you will. But when it comes down to it, after that SHTF scenario happens, when they're having all this extra mental stress on, they might snap. And we've seen what happens multiple times whenever people go off of their meds and stuff like that. We've even seen it to where when people aren't on medications, they just can't handle that extra mental stress of being in that type of situation, to where they commit self-harm, they harm other people because they become erratic, unable to control their emotions or think logically, and they end up lashing out, or they end up harming people that they normally wouldn't harm whenever it was a very peaceful and very calm environment. And on top of that, you're adding into the extra physical restraint of having to survive on a day-to-day basis, and on top of that, with you trying to be able to protect your family and being able to having to work all this different, depending on how large your group is, but you're having to fill a whole bunch of different jobs where you're having to gather food, you're having to gather water, you're having to provide security as well. So that can add to a lot of lack of sleep. You can have physical exhaustion, fatigue, which can just add into a lot of different things. And on top of that, you can also add into the factor of general illness as well, because some people have people in their families that have certain type of contractable diseases that, when left unchecked by medication, can spiral out of control. And if it's not watched right, for example, of STDs, that can actually spread really quickly just by certain types of, for example, if you're treating, because you all are going to be working on a day-to-day basis, there's a lot of chances that you can have injury. You can have injuries on your hands, so you can contract bloodborne illnesses if you aren't properly protecting yourself while treating for first aid and other things like that. So there's just a lot of things to really think about when it comes to having your family and friends with you, and how when you're just thinking about that, how they can be a threat to you as well as being an asset. So it's just as I mentioned in another video, you have to outweigh the risk versus the gains in that type of a situation. And it's a very hard situation to think about, because these are people that you've been with your entire life. These are people that you've relied on, you talk to on a daily basis, and you care about deeply. So it's not like, I don't know a lot of people that could just say, okay, and just leave their entire family behind to go survive on their own in the woods. So I want to hear how you guys really would think about this, because it's something that I have struggled with myself when it comes to a few of my family members not really being fully on board of the preparedness or in the prepping lifestyle. Even when it comes to my very close family, they don't really think of it as too seriously, even after living and surviving through multiple different types of disasters. So I want to hear what you guys have to think. I want to hear how you guys really solve that and how you bring them around to it, and also how you guys would deal with the after effects of after an SHTF scenario with people in your families that might have certain type of medications for antipsychotics or for depression and things like that. So I really appreciate you guys watching. I'm really looking forward to hearing your guys' opinions in the comments. And remember, those that prepare for today survive tomorrow.